Okay. So hi. Hello everyone. So it's me Biplab Karki and I'm back with the episode 3 of Digital Sales Cast where we talk about the various aspects of digital sales and entrepreneurship. Me, Biplab Karki, the CEO at Hyperce, is coming up with this new initiative to innovate and motivate youths in the best way possible in their niche, their domain, and try to learn and teach people in terms of digital sales and entrepreneurship. So for this episode, we have Mr. Akhil Mishra straight from India. So I would like him to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good to be here, by the way, Biplab. Good to be
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
My name's Akhil. I'm a co-founder of MTLegalTeam. It's an online legal firm, and what we do is we help businesses make sure whenever they are doing any business, online, offline, anything like that, growing, expanding, they are safe while doing that, basically, right? So that they don't take like 10 steps forward and then take 9 steps backwards, essentially. So we keep that in check, essentially. So that's essentially what I do. I manage the basically the social media side of it and the like review side of it, like the contracts and things. And yeah, run with a small team.
So yeah, glad to hear that. So actually, I think this is really important aspect that we need to talk because a lot of
Mm,
youths and startups are like not so aware and they are messed up in these things. And
mm,
as you said, in future they get hit back for not taking care at this moment. So I think this is something that I really want because this podcast or this event, we usually focus on youth startups and youths so that who wants to do some kind of startup, some kinds of ideas anywhere in the world doesn't really matter.
mm,
So let's see how we can help providing them knowledge. So I think,
that's
yeah,
the
basically, I like to start with the main introduction, like regarding the MT legal team, how did it
mm.
come and what's its main goal for the society in some more detailed manner, if you'd like to say, and what's the expertise and how you guys have been working with people. So if you'd like to say on that.
Cool. Actually, that's funny because we started off as during my like university days. That's when the firm was started. Right.
Okay.
So we started as freelancers initially, and then we formed like an agency, you can say, under the name of MT Legal Team. And then we started providing main services on contract drafting and reviews and advisory online, essentially. So that's how we started. That's how we started gaining experience. That's how we started like figuring out cool what are the problems that businesses face when they are starting off, right? Because law is confusing, right? So like no one understands law. Like cool, what is this? Like it's jargon, it's like rubbish written now, but it's important, right? It's
Yeah.
important.
Mm.
So how what we did was we figured out the basics that a startup might need, right? And the most cost effective you can say way is to be in a like a precautionary like approach, right? So you can be preventive with things, so you don't have to spend money or time like fixing a situation through like court cases or litigation, right?
Mm.
So the best way we have figured out to do that is through guidance, which is again the advisory part. We tell them, cool, you cannot take XYZ steps because it would be bad for you, it would be bad for your business, your brand. And the other thing that we do is with the help of contract. So anytime you are online, Biplab, right?
Yeah.
Like even when we are on a Zoom meeting call, right? We have
Yeah.
agreed to terms and conditions of Zoom, essentially, right? That's like it's a given, essentially, right? And knowing what your rights are in that space, right? Knowing what our rights are, like when we are using something, say for example, we don't want it to go like to the headquarters, right?
Mm.
Then what do we do? How do we delete something? How do we delete a recording? So we take care of that, essentially. So
Yeah.
that's how we started, and then we have been doing this like close to like 4 years now.
Oh.
Initially, it was just me and my co-founder, and now so two of us, and then later on, one of our friends, another friend, joined us. So now it's like three of us are just running this fight, and it's been good. It's a lean firm, and it's like easy to like make quick decisions because I feel like startups need that a lot.
So actually, yeah, like this is something that's also in my mind, and a lot of people also asked me regarding like you are an a company based out in India
Hmm.
right now. And how do you tackle all the laws and things that come from various places in the world, maybe from Western
Hmm.
world or maybe from other countries of Asia? In India,
Hmm.
itself, you are good, but this is something like I usually my mind also has, and a lot of people also ask when they go to digital legal firms usually. So, what you
Hmm.
say on that?
Hmm. That's a good question because we get a lot of those questions too. The
Yeah,
main part is how do you know more than the lawyer that has been working like locally, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so the steps to any lawyer working in any jurisdiction is to study the law, right?
Yeah.
He's not doing anything different there, essentially, right? So he's just studying the law there, right? So he has access to the same regulations, the same resources that we have access to,
Mm.
essentially, right? So, say for example, if we are a client in like the UK, right? We can read up on GDPR online
Yeah.
in the same way a local lawyer would, right?
Mm.
The only difference is the location there, right? So
Ah,
this is something that we have been doing from the start, right?
yeah.
So anytime someone comes to us, so how we started was we focused on the things that were coming to us rather than focusing on everything. So if
Mm.
you are coming to us from the UK, right, you have a request for in relation to like you want us to draft like privacy policy, for
Mm.
example, right? For that, we have to look into GDPR. So we look
Mm.
into GDPR, we check the rules and regulations there, and only then start with the project, essentially. And if you go to a local lawyer, his steps would be the same because no one knows everything from the start.
Yes.
They might know 20%,
Mm.
30%, but they still have to do the research,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So that's how you can do it essentially. You
Mm.
can read up the laws, you can read up the regulations, get an understanding of it, get the right steps that you have to take, and then you take those steps to move forward. That's how
Yeah.
we do it. Yeah.
I think that this is something that the digital law firms really wanted to know. Maybe that will be
Yeah.
very useful for them
Yeah.
because a lot of companies I've seen like they don't know like how we go to go. Let's say except from tech because tech is normal. Except from
Hmm.
tech, they are really confused. Like how do we take our service to global scale? Whether it be tech, whether it be law, whether it be engineering, consulting services, management
Hmm.
services. So I think this is
Hmm.
something like as you said, we need to study their law, their policies, their ways, and we can easily handle
Then, yeah.
in this
You
digital
cannot
world.
obviously practice there because you don't have the license to, but you can obviously give them like opinion, essentially,
Yeah,
opinion on XYZ,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So basically, that's how we proceed with that.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think now maybe we can like dive into the real topic, like talking about legal considerations of e-commerce and
Yeah.
let's say overall startup as a whole.
Yeah.
So maybe I think the first question, like always I've been getting asked, like I'm mostly
Hmm.
active with youths in this region or other region. Like they always ask, like when we doing like suppose if you are doing a physical business, then
Hmm.
there are a lot of laws that you need to follow. People know
Hmm.
that because it's going on from a long time. Your parents
Hmm.
tell you, your society tell you. But
Yeah.
nowadays, a lot of small youths, maybe 18 years old, 19 years old, 25 years old, that guys are going into online business and they're really confused that how much legal stuff do you need to take care while starting as an online business. So I think
Hmm.
if you'd like to say what are the basic things someone as a young entrepreneur or a small entrepreneur starting an online business need to take care in general way.
In a general way. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's just figure out the steps to starting a business, right? Say, for example, you are a new person, like you are a youth, and you are starting now a business, like an e-commerce business. What's
Yeah.
the first thing that you are doing? You are going to buy a website domain, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you are getting a website developed,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
that's the first thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you are getting like any products, anything like that out there, right? So now you get into the whole nitty-gritty of laws, right? So first things first, who are you getting the website developed by? The first
Mm.
thing that matters, right?
Yeah.
Is it yourself or someone else? If it is someone else, then you need to have a contract in place with them,
Mm.
right? Because say for example, they are you want an e-commerce website, right? And they start copying other e-commerce website and just give you a template,
Mm.
right? They can take action against you by saying, cool, you just copied my thing,
Oh.
right? So you need to have a contract in place that takes care of minor things like that, that you will not be infringing upon someone's IP. IP is intellectual property, by
Mm.
the way, which
Yeah.
is like copyright, patent, trademark, and all that, right? So you're not infringing on someone's IP, right? So first things you do that. The second thing you do is you make sure that you have the right policies in place, right? The reason why you need the right policies in place is law's logic is it is there to protect you as a business owner and the people that are interacting with you, so the
Mm.
customers,
Yeah.
right? So no matter which like jurisdiction you are in, they would always ask you to have certain terms and conditions. Terms and conditions in simple way is, say for example, you are visiting a website, right?
Mm.
What can I do, what can I not do on that website,
Mm.
right? Who governs that? How do I know that? Right? Those are covered in the terms and conditions, right? And now, if I'm buying from your website, I will give you certain information, right? Like,
Mm.
for example, if you use Amazon, they take your like address, they take your credit card, any
Okay.
like payment information, right? So, how do you know that how are they using that information? First of
Mm.
all, you have a right to know that.
Yeah.
And how do you make sure that, say, for example, you are never going to use Amazon ever again, or you are like,
Mm.
cool, I don't want anyone to know about this information. How do I delete that? Right. So that all is covered now in the privacy policy. So whenever you are getting a website developed, you need a contract. When you have the website, you need the policies on it,
This is,
essentially.
yeah.
Those are the main two things, right? And then once you start getting customers, that's when we start telling people, cool, now you get your trademark registered depending on how good that mark is, right? You
Mm.
can do it in the first step or the second step, and the other thing is now you can also start getting your business registered. The business registration, we tell people at a later stage, it's because registering a business is easy,
Mm.
but maintaining it is hard. Like,
Hard.
you might know, right?
I know.
So
I know.
it's like there's compliances that get into play, which can be monthly, quarterly, right?
Yeah.
Yearly, anything. So those are the three steps that I would suggest:
Mm.
contract, policies, and then all your IP, which is the trademark, and then your business registration.
Registration. Okay. So and
Yeah.
these are the basic steps. At least they need to take care while starting an online business.
Yeah. As long as you understand the logic behind that, I think you can take the right steps then. Right.
Mm.
Contract is for making sure the website that they give is not it's copy. They
Mm.
give it on time. If you are paying them, that they always deliver on that. Right.
Yeah.
Policies are for making sure that you are transparent with the business, like the customers that you are serving, that you're transparent with the law, that you're not doing anything shady, if that makes sense.
True. True.
Right. And business registration and trademark is for basically making sure that no one else now does not just copy you,
Copy.
like
True.
any of your mark. Like, for example, I think you run a business, Hyperce, I think.
Hypers. Yeah.
Yeah, Hyperce, right? So, for example, if I just go on like in India and just start telling you now, here's my new brand, Hyper, right? So
Yeah.
people will be like, cool, wait, this is Biplab's brand. How's he running that now,
Yeah.
right? So you can take action against me then,
True. True.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think these are the most like let's say common thing they get to miss out. As you said, like people
Mm,
directly think like registering is the business is the thing I need to do and I can do a business. They don't take
mm,
care of these kind of things. And mostly in in this South Asian or Asian region, the companies and youths don't take care. I think this is something that they need to take care. So
mm,
yeah, like once suppose as you said, like these things are done. Now the time comes like they are running an e-commerce. They want to sell it, sell goods from their own manufacturer, their family, or maybe from third party or from local market anywhere. So in
mm,
those that let's say the selling part also
mm,
involves a lot of legality and planning things that need to be done. Otherwise, they can get messed up. So what's your
mm.
suggestion on this supply chain or say e-commerce sales scenario in terms of legality?
I think distribution is something that you have to consider there, right? And whether you are in e-commerce, because sometimes what people do is have the sellers, right, directly on the thing, like kind
Yeah.
of like a marketplace, right?
Marketing. Yeah.
So you have to be, first of all, be careful about who you are getting the supplies from, right? Whether if you're like even if it is out of the e-commerce sense and it is going into the territory of marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Who are you onboarding, right? What is he selling, right?
Mm,
So those things you have to consider, right? Distribution side, we have seen the main issues that happen is in the quality of the
mm,
products that are being sold, right? And who takes responsibility for it. Right. So,
mm,
for example, if you're selling like any fruits or anything like that, and they start giving you like stale, any like stale items or like, right,
mm.
or like who takes responsibility in that, right? Is it the person who's selling you or you? Because customer will come to you basically,
Yeah,
right?
true.
They don't want to go to directly the wholesaler, the distributor, or anything like that,
Mm,
right? So they would come to you. So you have to make sure that you have a contract in place with them. Again, the most simple thing that you can do is to protect yourself and your businesses. Have contracts with people. The contract essential, like the reason why you would need a contract is to go over the terms, right? I like to call it as what ifs of a thing,
mm, yeah.
right? What if this happens? What if they are like slow in delivery
Mm,
in 1 month, right? What if they deliver something that is not up to the par or good? What
yeah.
happens in those cases?
Yeah.
So, in order to keep your supply chain running, in order to keep your distributors running, who is also delivering it from X location to Y location, you
Mm,
have to be clear on that, right? So, start having questions, write them down, right?
mm,
Make sure that you have a list of them. Ask the distributor, ask the wholesaler, manufacturers, anyone about those questions. Up, like once you get the answers, make sure those are also written in your contract.
mm,
Because I might say something to you on call, right?
mm,
But you might be busy from 100 different things, right? You might be serving like 100 different people,
mm,
business owners. So it gets confusing. Who did I say what to? Right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I give you a contract and tell you these are the things that you have mentioned to me, please sign here, and these are the things that will happen if you don't deliver on your end.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how you protect yourself in
Mm.
that case.
So I think, yeah, I think that's one of the huge challenge guys are getting. Like I heard some news we keep hearing like because of marketplace way the sellers are providing them, let's say in fruits and all, they are providing them the rotten things and client had already
Yeah.
paid, and some
Yeah.
even wrong things are being delivered because
Yeah.
in uh, many kind of startups here, like people order something, they are getting something. What do they do on that part? Even the customers are also not clear. So I think from customer side also, what do you suggest? Suppose if a customer orders something online and he gets something wrong or some another thing when rather than he order. So what do you
Hmm.
suggest from customer side on that part?
Customer side, there's two things I would suggest. This is also from a business perspective, I would suggest.
Okay.
So the first thing I would suggest is check the policies, check what the businesses have on the return or refund policy,
Mm.
essentially. Right. What do they have on there?
Yeah.
Right. Because for example, if you are a person who have ordered something from Amazon,
Mm.
right? And you, for example, you ordered like the new like PS5. You're
Mm.
like, cool, I don't need to game now. I need a PS5 for me. Right. They just send you a bag of potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
just give you a bag of potato. Like,
Yeah.
cool, this does not even look close to PS5. What's going on?
Yeah.
Right? So they give you a wrong order. Your option is to either like return or refund it, essentially
Mm.
the
Yeah.
payment that you did. Right. So typically what steps you can take is written on the business website, right?
Mm.
So if you go on Amazon, you would check that they have a policy written there, right? If
Mm.
you have ordered this, if you go on their app, they would be like, cool, you have ordered this recently. If you have any issues with it, contact our customer support. So after you contact the customer support, you can tell them this has happened to me. I need to return it. They would ask you, cool, can you send me a picture of it? You would be like, cool, here's a bag of potatoes that you would send me. Please forward it. Like, give me a refund. The other thing that you can do is in case the website do not have anything
Yeah.
like any policy like that, every jurisdiction has a consumer redressal forum that you can
Ah,
go forward to, right?
okay.
So their job is to make sure that consumers are protected. So
Mm.
depending on the jurisdiction that you are in, you can go there, right? And file a complaint against the business and then get your issues out resolved. But most businesses don't want that. They don't
Mm.
want the heat, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Outside heat. So that's why they get the policies in place.
Policies.
Yeah. I
Mm.
could actually tell you an interesting case that happened recently. Like
Mm.
one of the people that we were talking to, like he sold something online, right?
Mm. Mm.
And he did not have any policies in place. So he was
Okay.
selling some items. So he did not have any policies in place, or the policies were not clear, either of those two.
Okay.
So what happened was the customers had issues with the things that he was sending, right?
Mm.
So what they did was they obviously checked his website, did not find anything, so they start going directly to the police,
Mm. Okay.
right? So it's filed a complaint against him,
Mm.
right? So as any normal guy, you would getting a police complaint is like, first of all, it's like you get anxiety from it, right?
Yeah.
Like what is happening, and the second thing is it's bad for brand,
Right. Yeah.
right?
True.
Because they could just go online and say, this guy sells me something, but does not allow me to send it back or have any
Mm.
customer support. They would write one post online and call it a day. It's
Yeah.
bad rep, right?
Yeah.
So what he came to us, he told us, I'm getting so many police complaints a month. What do I need to do? So we
Mm.
checked his thing and we said, you don't have the right policies in place for it. So
Mm.
let's make sure you have the right policies in place, which is the like return refund policy, right? And then what the customer will have is they don't have to go to the police, we just go to you directly
Yeah.
for it. So that's
Mm.
what you want to do there.
Okay. That sounds
Yeah.
a good advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, And also, as you said about the IP thing in the beginning,
Mm,
we need to
mm,
protect our brand and stuff. I think this is some
mm,
topic that's mostly ignored because people think
mm.
like taking trademark, copyright, patent, IPs are troublesome thing, long things, expensive thing.
Yeah.
So in future they need to regret. But how do you say like what are the if you have some general ideas, how do we do that? How do you protect your maybe product, service, or a brand, even your let's say logo, those kind of things. So how do you think what's the process legally to protect them, mostly in the digital space?
Hmm. Like if you do any Google search online, right, they
Yeah.
will tell you a couple of things to do. Like, how
Okay.
do I start a business? The generic like idea that you would get is register your business, register IP,
Mm,
right?
okay.
So that's the thing that you would get. And you would get that advice before you have sold anything,
Mm,
right? So they're telling you to take cost before
yeah.
you have made any sale,
Yeah.
right? Invest this much amount. And you might know, and I know this, don't have to do that. First
Mm,
of all, you establish a market, right?
mm,
You first of all know the thing that you are selling is sellable or not,
mm.
right?
Okay.
Whether you have a market it for it or not. Before you start incurring any cost on it, you just ignore that part, right?
Mm,
But I would add a but here. The reason why I would add a but here is it depends on what you are selling. It depends on who you are.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, for example, if I'm a guy who's I'm selling like for example courses, right?
Mm,
I'm selling like for example any guides, anything like that, right? My whole thing is my personal brand.
mm,
It's my name, right? Is the company that I have. So
mm.
if I add my logo anywhere, right, its value increases. That's
Yeah.
what they do with the bags. That's what they do, right? Like
Yeah.
Nike and everything else, like Adidas, right? So they just add their logo, and that's why the value increases, right?
Mm,
If you are creating something like that, and if you are on the path to that, and if you are really close to that, that's when I say, cool, just start registering your trademark then.
mm,
Once you get a feedback from the market that there's a need for it, and your main thing is that logo,
mm,
that main thing is that logo, because Biplab is selling me this through
mm,
Hyperce,
mm.
only that reason it's valuable,
Okay.
right? If
Yeah.
Akhil sold it, it was rubbish. If Biplab is selling it, is good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's when you get into the IP thing. That's when you start protecting it, right? But the other thing is, for example, you are in the software business,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Now you have an idea, you have everything else, right? You know what to create, right?
Mm,
And then you don't have the background for it. Now, how do you protect that?
Yeah.
right? Because you're giving someone an idea. What's preventing them from actually just running off with it? You
Mm,
just tell them the idea on call, they'd be like, cool, don't want to work with you, works on it on the side. Right? So how do
mm,
you do that? So when we are in a situation like that where people are scared of even sharing their ideas, what we tell them is do two things. Have an NDA in place, first of all. The NDA is a document that prevents the other guy from sharing any confidential information, which is the secretive information, with anyone else, essentially.
mm,
Right? So if I tell you something like, hey, Biplab, I have this cool idea, but before I tell you this idea, I want you to sign this document, which is an NDA. It'd be
mm,
like, cool, I'll sign this document. I'll tell you all the secrets. Now you cannot share them with anyone else,
mm,
basically, right? The other thing with this is I'll go to you and I'll be like, cool, based on the idea, I want you to create a software for me, right? Because you are creating the software for me, right? I
mm,
will have a contract that would say anything that is created, right? It is being assigned to me, essentially. So it's my IP, right?
mm,
So you cannot just start using it basically on your own, on the
mm,
side, right?
mm,
So you get it assigned there, essentially, right? And that's when you then start getting into the whole patent, copyrights, anything else. But when you're starting off, you have to establish that you have a market for it. When you are getting something developed, you have to establish that they cannot share it with someone else. For that, you get NDA. The
mm,
third thing is, if you are getting something developed, right, you have to make sure that they transfer the rights to that thing to you,
mm.
essentially.
True.
Right. So those are the three things that you have to consider when it comes to your IP and ideas. And then you can get into the copyright, patent, and trademark.
So I think yeah, you talked about this NDA thing, talking like some like giving some tasks to third party, and I think this is one of like really challenging thing faced by people in terms of legality, because I've
Hmm.
seen many people not able, not willing to give some contacts to out of their country, like use contacts or bigger contacts, because that's a cross country thing that
Hmm.
usually becomes a problem in this digital space. So I think this is something I always wanted to ask. Like suppose someone from Germany wants to give a contract to me at in Hyperce from Nepal, like legally contacting Nepal and Germany. But still, for example, anyone wants to break the contract and issues occurred, for example, then what do you think is the right step to tackle this cross country? If it's inside the country, we already know that it's easy. We know lawyers here, law they are here, but the German law, the Nepalese law, different thing. So how do you think we can tackle in this case mostly?
Okay. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Uh, there's different steps to resolving a dispute,
Yeah.
right? So the first step that you can take is, I like, my idea is to stay away from courts
No.
as much
Okay.
as you can,
Yeah. True.
right? Because like even as a normal guy, I'd be like, cool, stay away from courts. Don't want to go there. It's a waste
Yeah.
of time,
Yeah.
right? But what happens is the first step that you should take is
Mm.
negotiate the thing, right? For example, if you are providing a web development service, right?
Okay.
And they are from Germany, they're your client. You deliver them something, they're like, I don't like it, right?
Mm. Yeah.
You're like, cool. Why do you not like it? They're like, I'm not gonna tell you, but I need my money back, right?
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
cool, but I
Easy.
work for it. I'm not gonna give you the money back. They're like, cool, but there's a dispute happening there now, right?
Yeah. True.
So the first thing I would say is have negotiation in place.
Mm.
Right.
Okay.
Negotiation is, hey man, I worked for you for so long, like a month or two. If there is any part of the thing that you don't like, you can tell me and I
Mm.
can take care of it. Right. So
Okay.
you start negotiating it. If you cannot do that, the second thing you can go for is arbitration or mediation. That's like a quicker way of doing that. Arbitration
Okay.
and mediation is like a third party comes along and they
Okay.
decides how your case is being handled. Right.
Mm.
But
Okay.
before you do anything like this, I will again go back to the contract, right?
Mm.
The
Mm.
contract will play a huge role in this case, a
Mm.
huge role, right? Why it would play a huge role? Every contract has a thing called governing law,
Yeah. Yeah.
dispute resolution,
Yes.
right? The governing law would dictate, first of all, where is what place law is actually being applied to this contract, right?
Mm.
If it says Nepal, then you're law would apply. If it says Germany, then his law would apply,
And
essentially.
also, like some has like both countries based on the, like say Germany or Nepalese law kind of things. So like things are conflicting on that part also. So what's it?
I don't think you should have or,
Hmm.
and I don't think it would be applicable because you
Okay.
cannot say, I want something hot and cold,
Okay.
right? It doesn't make sense. You want hot and cold. Can't say, I want hot and cold,
Okay.
right? So you need one forum. If
Hmm.
you cannot decide on that
Yeah.
forum, right,
Yeah.
then again, you have to have like a separate thing. Like not even, it won't be Germany, it won't be Nepal. You can have a separate forum for
Uh,
that. Let's just agree on that, right?
hmm.
So you can have that. The other thing I would add is how is a dispute being handled,
Okay.
right? What are the steps to it,
Hmm.
right? For example, I know in your case, it's web development side, there's different milestones that happen for it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I would first give you a design
Hmm.
and like for example, I'm a web development agency. I'll give you a design and you
Hmm.
have to accept it,
Yeah.
right? You have to accept it. And if you don't accept it, I will revise it,
Hmm.
essentially. If you
Yeah.
do accept it, what happens? I would always suggest here, get that in writing. Always
Yeah.
get that in writing that
Okay.
you as a client have accepted this, right?
Hmm.
The reason why I say this is because if a third party or even a court has to look at the contract, right? Because they will look at the contract to resolve your dispute,
Hmm.
right? They would go to the dispute resolution part. They would first of all check, cool, Akhil has had to give a website to Biplab. Akhil has submitted the first draft.
Draft.
Biplab has accepted it.
Hmm.
Now Biplab is coming 3 months down the line saying that now I don't like the draft.
Hmm.
Cannot, the contract does not say that. Once you have accepted something, the payment has to be released. So Biplab is in the wrong here, right? So Biplab cannot just change the terms randomly, right? So contract plays an important part in that too. Like how is the dispute being resolved there?
Hmm. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that really enlightens. Okay. So yeah, actually, yeah, this is something that's really difficult at this time in tech startup. I'd like to ask you something like,
Yeah.
in tech, things are changing a lot. New
Yeah.
tools are coming, new things like every week, every 15 days, new things are coming. And again, we need to plan for law of that thing. Suppose AI comes, someday it comes like voiceover things, someday it comes like ML things, like blockchain things come, Web3 things come, like, and new technologies, new ideas are coming up. And like suppose, for example, if you start a project, a lot of things may change in between also because of
Hmm.
techs are coming, new ideas coming. So how do you think we can tackle in legal part in these newer, rapidly changing thing? Like we don't know, like we saw like, suppose we are studying building a AI website, and the client feels like in 7 days a new tech has come. Let's use this, but we don't know what's the precaution to take place while using that APIs or that tools. They may have different kind of laws. If customer, as you said, if customer blames someday, and our name also comes in, even though they are doing it, but we are the one who built their website and the website is coming down. So we may also get involved in some way. Like indirectly, we may also be in trouble. So how do you suggest the tech startups to tackle into the this ever changing tech loops in terms of law and legal?
That's a good question. You mentioned one thing I would like to highlight there that you
Yeah.
mentioned you have started a project and the
Yeah.
customer comes to you and says, now we need to use this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, use this. I don't like this. I want to use this. Right. Blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
So they keep changing it.
Yeah.
Right. So, first of all, you have to understand again, I would go back to the contract, then I would go back to the law. The
Okay.
contract would have that, for example, I am your client, right?
Okay.
And you're developing a website for me. I ask you to make me a landing page,
Mm.
simple landing page, right? And we have an agreement in place that you will create a landing page for me for $500, let's say,
Yeah.
for example,
Okay.
right? I look at the landing page and I say, you know what, Biplab, I don't like this. Let's just create a e-commerce website now.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So the contract should have something that says any out of scope work. So this is a work that is being asked that is out of the original scope, which was develop a landing page. So any out of scope work that is being done will only be done depending on the extra payment terms
Uh,
and a revised timeline.
best time,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So the contract should have that. Right.
Mm.
So if I tell you I need a now an e-commerce website, you would tell me the original contract was for landing page. What you are asking for is out of now scope of
Yeah.
work that we originally agreed upon. So let's go back to the drawing board. Let's understand your requirements for the e-commerce website. I would give you a revised timeline. I would give you a revised payment.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can proceed. That
Mm.
way you are protecting your time and money. Right.
Mm.
Because the client cannot just go online, social media, and bring your firm into like basically the like they did not listen to me, blah blah blah. You can
Yeah.
say we had something in
Contract.
agreement, they are just breaking that. It's a
Yeah.
bad client actually. Right.
Mm.
So you can say that. The second thing you mentioned was the ever-changing law. So
Yeah.
right now that is actually a foggy, you can say, area, actually, because because the technology is being developed so fast, the law is having a hard time keeping up with it
Yeah.
right now,
True.
right?
True. Yeah. That.
So what I would suggest is there's two things that happen. If a new law comes, obviously you have to follow that. AI, for example, related, right? Only a few countries are doing that.
Yeah.
EU, for example, EU, there's being some development in terms of the AI law, right? And USA too. But other countries, there's not. Like India and, for example, right?
We
Nepal,
don't have
there's
much.
no development.
Yeah.
So in those cases, what happens is the existing law, right?
Mm.
Those provisions are applied onto it with obviously some, you can say, thought to it,
Mm.
essentially. Right. So, for example, you have data privacy laws, right? You have like protection for like private data, right? You have protection for consumers and such, right? So
Mm.
those laws start applying onto that then, right? So those existing laws then play into picture. Obviously, I would suggest two things. You can either like keep up to date with the new emerging technology laws, right? Any laws in relation to any new techs and such. The other thing I would suggest here is have a lawyer. Do have a lawyer in this case, especially if you are a big company and if you can afford one on like a full-time basis or like a monthly retainer basis with someone who can tell you that, hey man, like the website that you created, right? This has happened, by the way, which is you have a website, right? You have the terms and conditions, you have the privacy policy. Now a new law comes along where
Yeah.
you have to give like like you have to add like a grievance like redressal officer,
True.
right? Which is a guy who would take care of all the complaints,
Mm.
right? So the law will tell you that every website needs to have this,
Yeah.
a specific guy for consumers, that their contact information first of all be there, their email address, their name, XYZ should be there so that the customer can contact them, right? So a new law would come along and either you would stay in touch with it or your lawyer will tell you, hey, this new thing has come along, we have to update our privacy policy now,
Mm. Yeah.
we have to update our terms and conditions now. So
Mm.
those are the two best ways I would suggest that you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This sounds really important to think.
Yeah.
Also, like, yeah, I think one of most important thing that we usually face in business or startup is the co-founder disputes that really
Yeah.
results in lot of legal things and all.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
feel like vibe is matching. In some time, it feels like the vibe is gone and he sues you. You fight with him. He sues you. You go to court. You keep relation also becomes bad. So, what do you think? Like the co-founding space. How can we bind this in proper legal manner in overall co-founding space?
Hmm. Co-founders, I think the people that you work with are one of the most important like people essentially you can have in life, kind
Yeah.
of, right? Because they are like looking after your business. They are also looking after like your future essentially in a
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
right? So one of the main things I would tell anyone, whether it's when even if you are like doing something with your friends, even if you're doing someone, I forget about even strangers, if even if you're doing something with your family,
Family. Yes.
right?
Relatives. Yeah.
Have a co-founders agreement in place.
Mm.
Co-founders agreement is an agreement that it would cover all the roles, it would cover all the responsibilities, right? It would cover all the questions that you might have
Mm.
initially. Now, this is an agreement that I would tell you to not delay it at all,
Okay.
right? I would not suggest you to wait for it. I would not suggest you to do anything like delay it.
Mm.
What most people do is they would say, once I have a business running, then I would get a co-founders agreement
Mm.
in place.
Mm.
Right. So, for example, let's think about it logically. You and I are working on a web, like a business, right?
Business. Yeah.
Right. You are doing 80% of the work.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm doing 20% of the work,
Yes.
right? I'm just lazy.
Mm.
I don't do anything. Right.
Yeah.
So you 6 months down the line, the business has now established. There's customers coming in every month, every day, right? And now we are like, cool, let's just establish our shares in this business,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Yeah.
You would obviously say, I need 80% into the business. And I would argue, why? Why would you need 80%, right? Because there's two people working in this business, so it should be 50-50,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So now there's a dispute.
Yeah.
So most people, what they do is they would say, once I have a business running, then I would get the co-founders agreement. I would argue that once you have a business running, then the issues start happening.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
Nothing happens when there's nothing going on.
When you just
Once
have an idea, nothing happens.
nothing happens then,
Yeah.
right? So that's when you have to be clear that cool, there's a business that's being done between Biplab and Akhil. Biplab is going to take care of the marketing side of it, right? Like become the face of the company in XYZ. And Akhil will take care of the development of the website, like get all the customers like onboarding, anything like that, right? And their shares in this business will now be 50-50.
Yeah. Mm.
Right. So you have to establish this from the start. Right.
Mm.
And the other things that you have to do is, say, for example, you have three, four, five people now working,
Yeah.
like co-founders, right?
Yeah.
The more the people, the more it gets, you can say, tricky to
Tricky.
handle it. Right.
True. True.
So for example, you have, for example, four people, 25 each person has,
Mm.
right? The business is doing good. Now, one person has to leave the company. Right.
Mm.
One
Mm.
person does not want to be in the company. The best case scenario for you what would be it? You get a third random stranger, like a fourth, sorry, random stranger into the company, or the company just operates within you guys itself. Like you
Mm.
guys have been here from the start, right? And most people would say, I just want the fourth person can leave, but I want his shares into the company first,
Mm.
and if no one is willing to buy, then he can sell it to someone else,
Oh, yeah.
essentially, right?
Yeah. Mm.
So those things are covered actually in the co-founders agreement,
Mm.
right? So you can have someone can leave the company, and then you can have someone that can say, I don't want to work here, or you can have someone that can say, so for example, you have not even worked for like 2 months and the guy just wants to leave. Right. So
Mm.
you can have a clause, like a provision in place that say that guy will not get anything because he has not even stayed with the company for a year.
Mm.
Right. So that's one thing that happens there. Right. This is the legal side of thing. On, I could say, like on the other aspects of it, I would say you should have someone with the same mindset, I would say,
True.
but because you can find skill set very easily,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
can, for example, I can go into the market and find like 10 different people who want to be co-founders,
Yeah. True.
right? They would have the skill set at this sense, like, which is where, like, I think I'm blessed in a way, because I started my firm with my friends, right? And they had the same mindset as me, right? So
Mm.
they are hardworking, essentially. They are honest. They work fast, which I like a lot.
Mm.
They know when things go wrong, they have to take responsibility for it, right?
Yeah.
And they just want the best for each, like the other person, essentially, right? So
Mm,
they would be honest for that, right? And this is outside of their skill set,
mm,
right? Right. So having that mindset is really important,
okay.
because you can have the right skill set, but the wrong mindset would be like, cool, I want all the thing in the company, blah blah blah. I'll
Mhm.
backstab him once the things are settling down, right? So that's not the person you need to be working with,
Yeah.
right? So you need the right mindset for it, most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that really looks good. I think yeah, I also wanted to ask like because of this growing tech, let's say the technology, digital things,
Mhm.
things are getting easier. So how do you think let's say in this law field, law startup or law firms, how has this technology impacted those industry or niche in your view, if you'd like to express, sorry.
Uh, so like how has tech helped
Yeah,
basically law firms, right?
law firms, yeah, simply
Yeah,
law
actually a
industry.
lot. It has helped a lot, actually, not gonna lie. So one of the main things I think you can see is ChatGPT,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's like
yeah,
you can see it everywhere now at
yeah.
this point, right? So I would say one of the best ways tech has or AI has helped lawyers is through taking care of some of the mundane or tedious tasks, essentially.
Okay, okay.
Right. So, for example, I want to simplify a language of something.
Mm.
Instead of having to brainstorm it, I could get
Oh,
it through ChatGPT,
GPT. Yeah,
right? But other thing there would be, I won't just copy paste it. I would actually review what it's written there
yeah,
and then change it. But at
yeah,
least I have something to work with,
yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
not ground zero. Right. So
Mm.
that's how, like, personally, like our firm uses it. So we use it it's like an extra, you can say, helping hand, you can say,
Oh,
right? It's not a complete operation, it's an helping hand. For
mm.
example, if we have to do a bit of research, right? It would give you the starting point. It would tell you, like, cool, you have to go into that direction, right?
Mm.
It won't tell you the exact location, but it will tell you, cool, you have to go into that direction. Because one thing with the AI you have to remember is it's not updated right now.
Yeah,
Even ChatGPT is an old model.
old
It's
one.
using, yeah, right. It's using some old information.
Yeah, yeah.
And your earlier question was law keeps like evolving,
Evolving.
right?
Yeah.
So it would tell you, like, cool, GDPR would apply on a business in the UK. So at least you know the name of the law that you have to search, which is the GDPR. And then you can start your research there.
Oh.
Instead of just Googling which law would apply and blah, 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 right? It would tell you these are the laws that would apply. And then as a lawyer, I can go there and I read the actual like text, actual
Mm.
regulations and such, right? So I can say that it has made our life a lot better, you can say. It's like a junior assistant. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe we are around towards the end of the session. So I
Yeah.
think I like to ask you one thing, like a lot of lawyers or someone who is into your field, and also I
Mm.
meet a lot of youths who are studying law, who
Yeah.
are practicing law, and
Mm.
they usually keep asking like, what could we do, like as a business, as a startup, not just supporting, like they keep asking like, what could be our overall advice as a business person, because we know business, they know law, so we can advise them, you can do these kind of things, you can promote yourself, you can sell people online. So what's your advice to some law startups or lawyers who really want to move into this world of doing something like you are doing your own, instead of going to court and doing
Yeah.
kind of
Don't
things?
like
Yeah.
that.
So what's your
Yeah.
advice to them who really want to do something out of a law background to a business aspect?
I think lawyers are in a really good place right now. Uh, because I think for the new and emerging lawyers, I would first of all suggest that you can try a lot of different things, right? You don't have to just go down one path, right? You
Mm.
don't like you would have people tell you have to be a judge,
Yeah.
for example, right? You have to go to the court, you have to do X, Y, Z, right? Don't have to do any of that, right? How I started was I did not want to go to the litigation. I
Mm.
don't want to travel like 6, 7 hours every single day, right? Going into the hotel rooms, like, cool, the judge is not here, what do I do? Cool, now the day is it's not meaningful for me,
Yeah,
personally speaking,
meaning.
right? So the other thing I looked at was I came to it from a perspective of I like new things,
Mm,
right? I like new things a lot. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again,
mm,
right? So what is new? The startup space, right? So startup space is new. So
yeah.
if you are a lawyer, if you like something that doesn't get boring, something that is actually kind of like a lot rewarding,
Mm,
something that you believe in, right? If you are, for example, Biplab is a lawyer,
mm,
he likes sports a lot, right?
yeah.
Or he likes like food a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can actually now work with a restaurant
Yeah.
because you have
Yeah.
the option to.
Yeah.
You can
True.
work with a sports company. You can
Yeah.
work with a sports tech company,
Yeah.
right? So you have the option to do that because law is applied everywhere.
Everywhere. Yes.
It's
True.
like I look at law as like a facilitator
Yeah.
almost. It
Yeah.
facilitates things for happening,
Mm,
right? So you can work and basically anywhere and everywhere.
mm,
But so first of all, you have to ask yourself, which niche do you want to work in? What do you like the most? And then you can go after companies like that. The other thing I would tell any lawyer or any firm or anyone in the legal industry is make sure you have a personal brand going for
mm.
you.
True. True.
Right. Personal brand is the most important thing. Personal brand, I mean, like anything that you are learning, anything that you have learned, anything that you have helped people with, start posting online and
Yeah.
get your name out there.
True. True.
Right. Because
Yeah.
building a personal brand will take time, even if you are in a university, right? If you're just starting off, right?
Mm,
You can still build a personal brand online. You can do it
true.
on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, which is now called Instagram, anywhere like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just posting random pictures,
Mm.
right? Of like, cool, this is a sunset, beautiful, hashtag beautiful, right? Random things, right? Just post something that actually tells people this is this is like Biplab. He's studying in the commercial law. He likes businesses, right? He has made this point for businesses, right? You get known in the industry.
Yeah.
So
True.
that's what I would suggest. Just get known in the industry by building a personal brand.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
think that sounds a really good advice to maybe the aspiring lawyers
Yeah.
who will be watching us. So I
Yeah.
think maybe we are around the end. So if any advice do you have to any kind of, let's say, startups or entrepreneurs, like
Hmm.
in terms of general thing or maybe in terms of law thing. So if you'd like to give final words.
For startups, I do have an advice.
Mm.
One thing I've noticed that a lot of startup owners do is they do things without thinking, if that makes sense. Right? They do things
True.
without thinking.
True.
Or they would be focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like 7 out of 10 startups, you would go to them, you'd ask them, cool, what are you doing? I'm raising funds.
Yeah.
Like,
True. True. True.
for
True.
what? What are you raising funds for? What's going
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
So they would just say that, right? Or they would come to you and they would ask you like silly questions, which would be like, will registering my business help me with my business? Like depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mm.
I would say that before doing anything, like taking a step, understand why you are taking that step to begin with,
Mm.
right? And put yourself in the other guy's shoes. For example, if you go online and you search up how to run a business, again, it would tell you register your IP, register your business, right? Understand why that's important. First of all, like registering a business is important because you want to protect yourself. You don't want to be held personally liable.
Yeah.
Wants a separate entity to be taking the heat and everything, right?
Mm.
And you want to apply to certain programs, right?
Yeah.
That's why you need a business.
True.
Or you
True.
want the funding, that's why you need a business, right? So understand why you need something to begin with,
Yeah.
right? Similar thing with funding. I would go to like startup owner and I would ask them, why do you need a funding to begin with? Right?
Mm.
If someone's asking you, like it could be an investor, it could be anyone, you have to give a decent, detailed answer there because you never know what opportunities lying there. Right? Not one word answers like, I need funding for my startup. Why do you need the funding? to fund it. What's that mean? What does that mean? Right. So it doesn't like doesn't tell me anything. Right. So I would say like make sure you understand the why behind what you are doing and then take the steps towards it. And by the way, you can start a solo business.
Yeah,
This
true.
is something I would say you don't need a co-founder. You can start a solo business,
Yeah.
although it would be more hectic for you. But instead of looking for funders in like funding, instead of looking for co-founders, you can attract them,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mm,
if you
mm,
have a good business,
mm,
investors would automatically come.
yeah.
Co-founders would automatically, all the things that you need would automatically come once you have a good business in play.
Yeah,
So
true.
focus on making sure that your customers are like first of all heard and then happy, and focus on creating something good that actually solves a problem. Don't
Mm,
assume there, actually get the market feedback from it. Right? And you can just build something good in like 1 year or like 2 years and so
yeah. Okay. So that
yeah,
sounds really exciting for
yeah.
all the entrepreneurs out there. Like, as you said, you're a solo co-founder initially. Huh?
No, no, I started with a
Oh,
co-founder
sorry,
actually.
not you,
Yeah,
sorry. A lot of startups,
yeah.
as I've talked with, they have a lot of solo co-founder and running an
Hmm.
agency. So
Hmm.
that's something that agency models are now run by solo co-founders. Like initially, I also started, as you said, I started solo, but as you said, I attracted people, and now I have
Right.
a lot of internal teammates, internal partners, and all the let's say people from even not just from Nepal, from other countries also. They have joined. As you said, like we can attract people with our works rather than just focusing on. I need co-founder. I need a lot of money. I need a lot of time to do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. That's
that's
how
the
we
big.
connected too. Like I found your profile and sent you a request because
Yeah,
I saw that all your posts was not like I need co-founder, I need co-founder, I need partner, I need partner. Right? It was more so on your work and the help that you're providing to
yeah,
people. And
yeah,
that shows a lot. So it's easy to stand out from the crowd actually. We
yeah.
just focus on the basics.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we are almost to the end. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, Akhil, for
Thank
joining me
you.
and
Yeah.
sharing your knowledge.
Yeah.
So we hope we stay connected and meet again and again on this kind of events.
Yeah. It was fun, Viplav. Thanks for having me. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.